how do you deal with raising a child that's now being a teenager? Sometimes you need the male figure to be in those years because that helps them, you know, and it's a team formation to grow a child. It takes a whole town, a whole community to raise children, you know, and it's a good saying because if you see if you know a kid that is doing something wrong in your neighborhood, what is the first thing you should do?
Mm.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like you're snitching, but you know he doesn't know anybody. He's only 13. Like, what can he know about life?
Yeah.
You know, if he doesn't get corrective actions, how would he get out of that situation? I don't know. What do you guys think? Who wants to go first? Kev?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of hard, like with kids and disciplining kids, and like, well, I don't have kids yet, at least, right? And I know the perspective of being a kid itself, right? Well, when I was a kid, um, I would I would just want to. What really helped was sports. Like getting into sports is what helped discipline me. Because then, as I got into sports, it's like, oh, I needed to go through training, I needed to go to practice, and and if I wanted to play in the game, I gotta make sure I had a high score. I had to make sure I exceeded these expectations in order to be able to play. Right. So sports is one of those avenues where discipline can be grow brought into it, especially if you're like in a single parent household or things like that, because it's hard for it's especially for so my mom was single, my dad was a single parent too, mainly grew up with my mom, and it was hard for her to be the disciplinary. Uh, yeah, I don't. She just it was just hard for her to take on the role of a disciplinary role. So like I learned my own disciplines through sports and what not to do and what to do. If you're a parent out there that's trying to build discipline into your kids, if you're trying to find avenues to do that, maybe getting them into a sports program at school, um, or even outside of school, if budget doesn't allow, there might even be free programs out there for it. Uh, just to get them in an activity that teaches them the discipline, an activity that they might like, and if they do like it, then they'll be disciplined in order to continue it. And because then afterwards becomes like a punishment, the activity then gets taken away if you can't do that activity. So I think sports is a great way to help assist kids discipline and as well as building confidence, teaching them how to play with others, teaching them like social rules and all that. Like sports is a great avenue, amazing avenue to instill those behaviors into them.
What are your thoughts here?
I think that we're all a little lost right now in this world. I think that the parents that are trying they really think they're doing their best. And there's a lot of parents that aren't trying. And the kids are the ones that have to suffer for that. I think there's a lot more than we realize of kids that are being their own parent. You know, like when I was originally subbing, one of my first classes was 4th grade, and we have to wait for the kids at the end to get picked up by their parents, and at least 7 of them were walking home by themselves. And this is downtown Elizabeth, you know, and that broke my heart. Like, these are babies, literally, and they're walking home, and what does that mean? That when they get home, there's nobody home? Like, shouldn't that, like, not even be legal? And, like, it is. I looked it up. It's legal. Like, you don't have to have a babysitter, you know? And that's, after a certain age, I think it was, like, 8 or 9. And you hear things that I can't, you know, that's just one small story, but you hear other things that I can't necessarily share. But there's so much going on, so much complexities, and so much suffering on a grand scale in these urban spaces where everybody's hustling to try to survive and make the money they need to put the food on the table. Everything is so expensive. The technology age, I think, baffles everyone. No one knows really what to do about it, because I think like taking the phone away, we're a little bit past that. It's almost like it's integrated into their being, and it's hard to, like, you can't recreate the wheel, you know, like you can't, like it's, the damage is almost done, if that makes sense, when it comes to how technology has infiltrated schools and children's lives. Like if you look into statistics on how so many more kids are depressed, so many more kids are suicidal, so many more kids are filled with anxiety. I think that the best you can do is try to be your best, try to be a light, try to be supportive. Like I said, care before you react. Understand that there might be ignorance, but it's not malice. It's these kids are doing what they can. Like maybe they're not even, I wouldn't want to say they're doing their best, but they're not necessarily doing their best. And can we blame them? Can we expect them to? What will come of this lack of discipline? Wasted time, going to school for things that they don't really want to go to school for because they didn't know to really figure it out first. A lack of really getting to know oneself. Lack of self-realization, self-worth, self-understanding. I think that discipline leads to all of those things, and it allows you to make better decisions. It allows you to figure out the Rubik's Cube that is life, I think, more effectively. And so without that discipline, or I'll say with the lack of discipline, I think a lot of these kids are going to have some hard times. I didn't have discipline. Like, my dad was working 24/7, and my mom was so nice. Like, she didn't know, like you said, she didn't know how to be the disciplinary. She thought just talking to me about things and trying to just like be friendly all the time was gonna, and she believed everything I said, and I was lying all the time. You know, like I was, as a teenager, I was lying all the time. I would say I'm over here when I was really over there, and she believed me. And so I would just do what kids do, where you just like do the wrong thing because your brain's not fully developed, and so you're doing stuff that you think this is fun, this is it. But when you look back on life, it's like, wow, I spent my high school years so hyper-focused on friends, so hyper-focused on chilling. I had the cell phone too. It wasn't this kind of phone with the smartphones, but I had like the little flip phone, and we were texting all the time, and we were up late on the phone talking, and you know, I was so hyper-focused on friends and the relationships that I could make, that you don't realize like half of those people you're never going to even talk to. And what you really should be doing is getting involved in clubs, getting involved in things that get you in touch with yourself, so that when you graduate, you're not completely confused as to where to go next. And that doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out and your major decided. I actually think it's best to wait on college, which I might get in trouble for saying too. I don't think necessarily most kids should really get out of high school and go straight into college, because most of the time the major you choose isn't what you want later. So maybe take a break, work, just save up some money, start a little business, start a little hustle, get into art, get into everything. Like, that's what I tell my kids, like, get into hobbies, throw yourself into different ways of working with your hands, working with your brains, different things that you can do as a pastime that can later become passions, that can later become income. Because right now, with the way things are looking, you're going to need all your passion projects to become money makers. You know, like what I look back on in my regret most is, how come I wasn't figuring out ways to make money in a fun way, in a way that I enjoyed, so that by the time I got to my age, I was already sitting pretty? Because if you really hyper-focus in high school on that, you can figure yourself out by late 20s. You can be really, really set by late 20s. And I don't mean because you went and got a PhD and became a doctor. I mean, you can really just figure out what you like and what you want by diving and delving into things and by focusing on yourself. you know, and what betters you, what makes you a better human being, what makes you a more valuable person based on the skills that you have and the knowledge that you have and the understanding that you have. But without discipline, it's very difficult to unlock that box, that Pandora's box to you, because all you're doing is just kind of floating through life with no anchor. And so I feel for these kids because a lot of them have really good reasons for being undisciplined and for being stuck to their phones. And then maybe if I was in another land where, like, you know, Cherry Hill or something like that, where they got like Princeton and all the money and they're still glued to their phones, I might look at those kids as like, ugh. But like my kids, they're trying to just disassociate and distract themselves from real life that hurts and is hard and difficult. And even, you know what, I don't want to throw a towel to the kids that come from money, and because a lot of them are going through struggles too, where yeah, we have money, but their life is not peachy keen either. And just like, look at the world, like all these kids are surrounded and bombarded by terrible information. Since 9/11, it has just been war, famine, disease, pandemic, terror, be afraid, be sad, be nervous, you're not going to have social security, you're not going to have this, there's no protection for you, you're getting deported. Like, look at the news. They almost have to disassociate to get through just the constant influx of awful information that is swimming and surrounding us all the time. So it's a lot, you know. We could talk about this for a long time.
Yeah. We're definitely going to continue that, because there's something important. You said a lot of important things, but one that stuck up to me was